I was standing in my childhood living room when the lawyer stopped mid-sentence and looked directly at my sister. His pen hovered above the paper. The air felt wrong, too quiet, too sharp. And then he asked one question that made her smile disappear. That was the moment everything shifted. Because 5 minutes earlier, I had been officially erased from my own family. She had just told me I had 10 minutes to pack my things and leave the house I grew up in. The same house where my mother used to sing while cooking. The same hallway where my father measured my height every birthday. And I was about to walk out homeless while my sister sat there with $28 million in her name. But the lawyer hadn't finished speaking. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my story of betrayal, and if you've ever trusted the wrong person, hit that subscribe button because you are not alone. Here is how it happened. 2 months earlier, I was still calling my sister every morning. I was the one reminding her to eat, the one making hospital schedules, the one holding our mother's hand while machines beeped around us. When both of our parents passed within 11 days of each other, the grief didn't come like a wave. It came like fog, slow, suffocating, disorienting. We didn't fight back then. We cried together. We hugged in the driveway after the funerals. She told me, "We'll get through this together." I believed her. Because she was my older sister. Because blood was blood. Because family doesn't keep score when everything hurts. Or so I thought. I moved back into the house temporarily, just until things settled, she said. I paid the utilities. I cleaned out our parents' room. I found old letters, medical files, insurance documents, things she said she couldn't handle right now. I handled them. I handled everything. And while I was drowning in paperwork and grief, she was meeting with lawyers, quietly. I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one who trusted family members during grief, only to realize later that grief makes you blind to manipulation. At the time, I didn't notice the signs, the sudden coldness, the locked office door, the way she stopped making eye contact when money came up. She told me, "Don't worry about the will. Mom and Dad left things simple." That sentence should have scared me. It didn't. The day the will was read, she arrived early. New coat, new confidence, a calm I didn't recognize. The lawyer asked us to sit. He started listing assets, properties, investments, accounts I didn't even know existed. The numbers climbed higher and higher until my ears started ringing. $28 million, all assigned to her, every single dollar. I laughed at first, not because it was funny, but because it was impossible. I looked at the lawyer and said, "You missed something." He didn't look confused. He looked uncomfortable. Then he said the words that broke something inside me. "According to the documents, you were not listed as a beneficiary." I turned to my sister. She didn't look shocked. She looked relieved. We didn't argue in the office. She waited until we got home, until the door closed behind us, until there were no witnesses. Then she said it, casual, almost bored. "You'll need to move out. This is my property now." I reminded her that this was my home too. She smiled, a thin smile, practiced, sharp. "Legally? No. You have 10 minutes. I went upstairs in a daze. I grabbed a bag, photos, clothes, my mother's scarf. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my phone twice. From downstairs, I heard her on the phone, laughing, planning renovations, talking about finally starting fresh, as if I was a stain she'd just wiped away. When I came back down, suitcase in hand, the lawyer was still there. He hadn't left yet. He was flipping through the papers again, slowly, thoughtfully. Then he stopped. He cleared his throat, and he looked at my sister, not me, and said, "There's just one thing I need to ask." Her posture stiffened. For the first time that day, she looked nervous. And that's where everything truly began to unravel. The lawyer didn't rush his words. That silence, the kind that stretches and presses against your chest, felt deliberate. My sister shifted her weight. Her fingers tightened around her phone. She avoided my eyes like I was already gone. Then he spoke. "Before we finalize possession," he said calmly, "I need to confirm something about the timeline of this will." My sister exhaled, sharp and annoyed. "Everything's already signed. You said it yourself." He nodded once. "Yes," he said, "signed, but timing matters." That's when he turned the document toward her. "Can you confirm exactly when Mother and Father instructed you to bring this version to my office?" I didn't understand the importance of the question yet, but I saw it on her face. A flicker. Not fear, miscalculation. She answered too quickly. After Dad's diagnosis worsened, they wanted things settled. The lawyer leaned back slightly. "And that was—" She hesitated. "Late April." He made a small note on the paper. Then he asked something that made my heart start pounding. "And was anyone else present when these instructions were given?" She shook her head. "No, just me." I felt something cold settle in my stomach, because late April was when my father could barely speak. Late April was when my mother was already on heavy medication. Late April was when I was the one living in the house full time, and I had never seen any meeting, any discussion, any goodbye conversations about money. The lawyer closed the folder, not aggressively, carefully. "I see," he said. Then he looked at me. "Can you step back inside for a moment? I have one more clarification." My sister turned sharply. "Why?" He didn't raise his voice. "Because this involves both parties." That was the first time he called me a party, not a burden, not a leftover, not a mistake. A party. We sat again. My sister crossed her arms, jaw tight. The lawyer opened a second folder, thicker. "This may come as a surprise," he said, "but your parents had 2 wills drafted in the last year of their lives." My sister laughed, a brittle sound. "That's impossible." He slid a document across the table. "Here is the earlier version, created 12 months before their passing." I leaned forward. My breath caught. My name was there. Not small, not secondary, equal. 50-50. The room spun. My sister stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "That's outdated. They changed their minds." The lawyer nodded again. "That is what the later document suggests, which is why I need to ask this next question very carefully." He looked directly at her. "Were you aware that your mother was declared legally incapacitated during the final revision?" Silence exploded in my ears. My sister's mouth opened, then closed. Her confidence drained out of her face in real time. I don't see how that's relevant," she said. The lawyer didn't blink. "It's relevant because any legal changes made after that declaration require independent witnesses and medical verification." He tapped the paper. "This version has neither." I felt my hands start shaking again, but this time not from fear, from hope, from something dangerous. My sister turned on me. Her eyes were wild. "You're doing this. You always played the victim." I couldn't speak. The lawyer raised a hand gently. "Please," he said, "this isn't personal. This is procedural." Then he delivered the line that split the room in two. "Until this discrepancy is resolved, no assets can be transferred." Her breath hitched. "What?" she whispered. "No money," he continued. "No property, no evictions." She looked at me like I had just stolen something she already spent in her mind. "That house," she began, "too is legally frozen," the lawyer finished. She sank back into the chair. For the first time since our parents died, she looked small, cornered. I thought it was over. I thought the truth had already won. But I didn't know my sister. Not really. That night, she didn't scream, she didn't cry, she didn't argue. She waited until the lawyer left. Then she turned to me with a smile that made my skin crawl. "You think this changes anything?" she said softly. "You have no idea what you're up against." She went upstairs and locked her door. An hour later, I heard drawers opening, files being moved, paper tearing. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed, an email notification from a law firm I'd never contacted. Subject line, notice of immediate legal action. I opened it with shaking fingers and realized my sister wasn't just fighting back, she was trying to erase me again, this time on paper, forever. At 2:17 a.m., that email sat open on my phone, glowing in the dark. Notice of immediate legal action. The words blurred as I read them again. She was claiming I had been financially dependent, verbally abusive, and, this part made my stomach drop, mentally unstable during our parents' final months. Unstable. That was the word she chose. She was trying to build a case that I was unfit, that I couldn't be trusted, that I didn't deserve anything. Not money, not property, not even credibility. By morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee. She hummed. She didn't look at me. The house felt split down the middle, two people sharing walls, not a family. I forwarded the email to the lawyer with one line. She sent this last night. He replied within 10 minutes. Do not engage. We need to meet today. At his office, the air smelled like paper and disinfectant. He read the email slowly. His jaw tightened. She's alleging undue influence, he said, an emotional volatility. I laughed then, a short, broken sound. I was the one who took care of them, I said. I barely left the house. He nodded. I know, he said, and that's why this matters. He opened another folder. This is where things get complicated. Apparently, my sister had submitted sworn statements from witnesses, friends, neighbors, people claiming they saw me yelling, withholding access, acting irrational. None of it was true, but lies, when typed and signed, have weight. She's trying to force a settlement or get you declared ineligible before we reach probate. My chest tightened. So what do I do? He looked at me carefully. You tell the truth, he said, and we prove it. He slid something toward me. Medical logs, nurse notes, visitor records. Every night I stayed, every medication I administered, every doctor visit I attended alone. She didn't know we had these, he said. I stared at the pages. She never came to the hospital late at night. She never sat through the worst hours. She was there for appearances. I was there for reality. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. There's more, he said. My sister had tried to change the locks on the house that morning. Illegally impossible, but revealing. She's panicking, he added. People who are confident don't rush like this. I thought of her smile the night before, the calm, the threat. The court date was scheduled fast, too fast, emergency hearing, 3 days. I spent those days in that house like a ghost. She avoided me completely. No more humming, no more coffee, just slammed doors and whispered phone calls. The night before the hearing, I found something. I wasn't looking for it. I was packing old documents, things I thought might help. In the back of my mother's dresser, beneath scarves and folded letters, there was an envelope, sealed, my name on it, in my mother's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter, dated 6 months before she passed. It began, "If you're reading this, then something has gone very wrong." I sat on the floor and cried before I even finished the first page. My mother wrote about fear, about pressure, about how my sister had insisted on handling things, about how she worried I would be pushed aside because I was too kind, too trusting. She wrote, "Your sister thinks strength is control, but love doesn't work that way." Then came the line that made my heart stop. "I made arrangements to protect you if this ever happens." Arrangements, plural. At the bottom of the letter was a name, not the lawyer we had met, another one I had never heard of, along with an address and a sentence underlined twice. "Do not tell her about this." I didn't sleep that night either. At dawn, I left the house quietly. I didn't tell my sister where I was going, because I didn't have to. Because for the first time since our parents died, I wasn't reacting. I was acting. The office was small, old books, dusty shelves. A man in his 70s looked up when I said my name. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. "I've been waiting," he said. Then he reached into a drawer and pulled out a sealed packet, stamped, "Legal. Your mother insisted this be released only if you were in danger of being disinherited." My breath caught. "What is it?" I whispered. He met my eyes. "The part of the estate your sister doesn't know exists." My phone buzzed. A message from my sister. "Court tomorrow. Don't embarrass yourself." I looked at the packet in my hands and realized she had already lost. She just didn't know it yet. I didn't open the packet right away. I just held it. It was heavier than paper should be, thick, deliberate, like it carried intention, not just ink. The old lawyer watched me quietly, as if he'd seen this moment play out before in other families, other rooms, other wars disguised as grief. "Your mother was very specific," he said. "She didn't want this used unless absolutely necessary." I swallowed. "Necessary how?" He leaned back. "Unless someone tried to erase you." He broke the seal. Inside were documents I didn't recognize at first. Trust records, offshore account disclosures, asset transfers routed through holding companies. Not cash, not property. Control. "This," he said, tapping the top page, "is a family trust created 10 years ago. Your parents funded it quietly. It doesn't appear in the primary estate." My heart hammered. "Why wouldn't it?" "Because it wasn't meant to," he replied. "It was a safeguard. A safeguard against exactly this." He explained it slowly, carefully. The trust held minority stakes in several companies my father had invested in early, before they went public, before they exploded in value. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't obvious, but over time, it grew. A lot. "Your share," he said, meeting my eyes, "is not symbolic." I braced myself. "Estimated value at current market conditions," he continued, "is just over $9 million. I felt dizzy. $9 million. Hidden, protected, untouchable unless someone knew where to look. My sister didn't. "There's more," he said. Of course there was. "There's a clause," he continued, "that activates if a primary beneficiary attempts coercion, fraud, or exclusion of another heir." My mouth dried. "What happens then?" He paused. "The offending party forfeits discretionary authority over their share." I stared at him. "You mean—" "Yes," he said quietly. "If proven, your sister doesn't just lose control, she loses priority." Court was in 4 hours. I walked out of that office into sunlight that felt unreal. Cars moved. People laughed. The world hadn't stopped, but mine had shifted on its axis. At the courthouse, my sister arrived with an entourage. 2 attorneys, a consultant, a confidant she'd practiced all morning. She didn't look at me. not once, as if acknowledging me would make me real again. Inside the courtroom, everything felt smaller. The judge was brisk, efficient, not interested in drama. My sister's lawyer spoke first. He painted a picture of me as unstable, dependent, disruptive. He used words like emotional volatility and undue influence again. I watched my sister as he spoke. She nodded at the right moments. A performance. When it was our turn, my lawyer didn't stand immediately. He waited. Then he said, "Your Honor, before we address the allegations, we need to disclose the existence of a secondary trust." My sister's head snapped up. "What?" she blurted out. The judge frowned. "Order," he said. My lawyer continued. "This trust predates the final will and was designed specifically to prevent exclusion of either heir." My sister leaned to her lawyer, whispering furiously. I saw something crack, just slightly. The documents were submitted, reviewed. Silence followed. The judge adjusted his glasses. "You miss," he said, addressing my sister. "Were you aware of this trust?" She swallowed. "No, I wasn't." The judge looked down at the papers again. "According to this, you attempted to remove your sibling from the primary estate while this trust was active." My sister's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, intent has not been proven." The judge nodded. "Which is why we're here." Then came the question that changed the room. "You miss," the judge asked my sister, "did you knowingly submit a will executed during a period of medical incapacity?" She froze. I was told it was valid." "By whom?" She hesitated. Too long. Her lawyer shifted. The judge noticed. My lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we'd like to introduce medical records, visitor logs, and sworn testimony from attending nurses." He laid everything out, methodically, carefully, like laying bricks. One nurse testified via video. She described how my mother struggled to stay awake, how decisions were deferred, how she personally refused to witness any legal signing during that period. My sister stared straight ahead, her face pale. Then the judge turned to me. "Did you ever attempt to influence your parents' decisions regarding inheritance?" "No," I said. "I didn't even know about the trust until yesterday." That surprised him. It surprised everyone, including my sister. Recess was called. My sister finally looked at me. Really looked. There was panic there now, not anger, fear. She approached me in the hallway, low voice. "Let's talk. We don't need to do this." I shook my head. "You already did." Back inside, the judge returned. He didn't waste time. "Based on the evidence presented," he said, "I'm issuing a temporary injunction." My sister stiffened. "All estate transfers are suspended. Additionally, I'm ordering a forensic review of the final will's execution." My heart pounded. Then came the line that made the room gasp. "And, pending review, discretionary authority over the primary estate is revoked." My sister's lawyer stood. "Your Honor." "Sit down," the judge said. The gavel came down. Once. Final. For now. Outside the courthouse, my sister broke. Not crying, shaking. "This isn't over," she whispered as she passed me. I watched her walk away, for the first time, alone. That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A man's voice said my name. Then, "I think you should know, your sister came to us first, and she lied." My stomach dropped. Who is this? Someone who doesn't like being used, and someone with documents you haven't seen yet. The call ended, and I realized the fight wasn't just about money anymore. It was about what she'd done to get it, and how far she'd gone to hide it. I didn't call the number back. Not because I wasn't curious, but because I'd learned something painful over the past few weeks. The truth has its own timing, and when it arrives too early, it can do more harm than good. So I waited. The next morning, the house felt different, quieter, not tense, empty. My sister hadn't come home. Her bedroom door was open, drawers half pulled, closet stripped bare. She hadn't just left for the night, she had evacuated. By noon, my lawyer called. "She's lawyering up again," he said. "Different firm, more aggressive." I sat at the kitchen table where my mother used to read the paper. "She's preparing for exposure," he continued, "which means she's hiding something." I thought about the phone call, the man who said she lied. "Someone contacted me last night," I said. He paused. "What did they say?" "That they had documents and that she came to them first." There was a beat of silence. Then, "If they reach out again, don't ignore it." They didn't make me wait long. That evening, an email arrived, encrypted, simple subject line, "You deserve to know." Attached were files, bank statements, invoices, legal drafts. I opened them one by one and felt sick. My sister had been moving money before our parents passed, small amounts at first, then larger. Accounts opened in shell names, funds routed through consulting contracts that didn't exist. It wasn't just manipulation, it was theft. One document stood out, a drafted but never filed guardianship petition. She had planned to declare our mother mentally incompetent months earlier, not for care, for control. I stared at the date, 3 days after my father's final diagnosis. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. He called me within minutes. "Where did you get this?" "Someone who said they didn't like being lied to." He exhaled. "This changes everything." Emergency motions were filed, subpoenas issued, and suddenly my sister wasn't the one applying pressure. She was the one under it. She called me that night, first time in weeks. I didn't answer. She texted, "Please, we need to talk." I stared at the screen, then deleted the message. The next hearing was brutal, not emotional, clinical. Accountants testified. Paper trails were traced, dates aligned too neatly to ignore. The judge listened, carefully, silently. Then my sister's lawyer asked for a recess. When they returned, he looked tired. "Your Honor," he said, "my client wishes to amend her previous statements." A murmur ran through the room. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Proceed." My sister stood, hands trembling. She didn't look at me. She looked at the floor. "I may have understood certain legal allowances," she said. The judge waited. And I may have acted prematurely with some transfers." Prematurely. That was her word for stealing from her dying parents. The judge's voice hardened. "Miss, this court does not appreciate understatement." He turned to my lawyer. "Counsel, prepare full discovery." My sister's face drained of color. Outside the courtroom, reporters waited. Somehow the story had leaked. Disputed inheritance, sibling legal battle. But none of them knew the worst part yet. That night, I went back to my parents' room. I sat on the bed, held my mother's scarf again, and realized something that hurt more than any betrayal. She hadn't just taken money, she had taken time, peace, dignity. The call came at midnight, the same voice as before. "You saw the files," he said. "Yes." "There's more," he added, "but if I give it to you, she's done." I swallowed. "What is it?" He paused. "A recorded conversation, her admitting why she cut you out." My heart pounded. "Why?" "Because she said you were the only one who would stop her." I closed my eyes and understood the truth. This wasn't about greed. It was about control, about erasing the one person who knew the family well enough to expose her. "I'll send it," he said, "but once I do, there's no going back." I didn't hesitate. "Send it." My phone buzzed. An audio file, time-stamped, legal, clear. Her voice, confident, cold. And as I pressed play, I realized the next hearing wouldn't just end the inheritance battle, it would end the lie she'd built her life on. I listened to the audio alone, sitting in my car, windows fogged, engine off, because some truths are too heavy to hear in familiar rooms. Her voice came through clearly, no distortion, no doubt, confident, calm, almost amused. If I don't cut them out completely, they'll ruin everything. They're too honest. They'd never let me do what needs to be done. I felt my chest tighten. The voice continued. It's not personal, it's practical. I've always been the smart one. The recording went on for 12 minutes. 12 minutes of her explaining how grief made people weak, how timing was everything, how I was emotional, predictable, easy to sideline. I sat there long after it ended, not crying, not shaking, just hollow. The next morning, my lawyer didn't sugarcoat it. This is devastating for her, he said. If authenticated, it establishes intent. Criminal intent? I asked. He nodded once. Yes. The authentication was quick, too quick. The source cooperated fully. Metadata checked out, voice analysis matched, chain of custody was clean. There was no escape hatch. At the hearing, my sister arrived late. No entourage, no confidence, just one attorney. Her eyes scanned the room until they found me. For the first time, there was something like regret there, or maybe fear. My lawyer introduced the recording. The judge allowed it. The courtroom listened in silence. Her own words filled the space, unfiltered, unforgiving. When it ended, no one spoke, not even her lawyer. The judge removed his glasses. "Ms.," he said slowly, "do you deny this is your voice?" She opened her mouth, closed it, shook her head. No. What followed wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no collapse. Just consequences. Immediate referral for criminal investigation, suspension of all inheritance claims, court-appointed administrator assigned. And then, effective immediately, the judge said, you are barred from managing or benefiting from the estate pending resolution. She whispered my name. I didn't respond. Outside, cameras flashed. She covered her face. I walked past, not because I was strong, but because I was done. Weeks passed. Investigations moved quietly. Accounts were frozen, properties audited. The truth kept surfacing, layer by layer. One afternoon, I received a letter, handwritten, from her. No apologies, just explanations, justifications. She said she felt invisible her whole life, that money was proof she mattered. I folded the letter and put it away. Some wounds don't need replies. The estate was restructured, the trust activated. My share was secured, not as a victory, but as restoration. I moved out of the house eventually, not because I had to, but because it was time. I kept the photos, the letters, the scarf. On the day the final charges were filed, my lawyer called. "It's over," he said. I looked out the window. Sunlight on ordinary streets. I replied, "Thank you." That night, I slept, really slept, for the first time since everything began. But closure hadn't quite arrived yet, because there was still one conversation left, one truth to face, one ending to accept. I didn't expect to see her again. Not in person. Not after the charges, the recordings, the silence. But 3 weeks after the court barred her from the estate, I got the call. "She's asking for a meeting," my lawyer said. "In person, no attorneys present." I laughed once, a short, disbelieving sound. Why would I do that? There was a pause. "Because," he said carefully, "she's agreed to tell the court everything, but only after she speaks to you." My stomach tightened. That was new. We met in a small mediation room at the courthouse. No windows, neutral walls, a table too wide for comfort. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. No polished confidence, no sharp edges. She looked smaller, thinner, like someone who had finally run out of stories to hide behind. She sat across from me, didn't speak, just stared at her hands. "I won't be long," I said. She nodded. "I know." Silence stretched, thick. Then she whispered, "I didn't think they'd catch everything." That was it. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "I was wrong," just that. I felt something inside me go cold. "You planned it," I said quietly, "for months." She swallowed. "Yes." I waited. "I thought," she said slowly, "that if I moved fast enough, you'd just disappear." Disappear. Like a mistake. Like I never existed. She finally looked up, and for the first time, not as a rival, not as an obstacle, she looked at me like a sister. "I was afraid of you," she said. I frowned. "Of me?" She nodded. "You were the one Mom trusted. You were there. You saw everything. I knew if anyone questioned me, it would be you." The room felt too small. "So you erased me," I said. "Yes." No hesitation. She leaned forward. "I told myself you'd survive. You always do. I just needed you out of the way long enough." Long enough to take everything. Long enough to win. My hands trembled, but my voice didn't. "Do you know what you took from me?" I asked. She shook her head. "My last months with them weren't just grief. They were fear, confusion, fighting paperwork instead of mourning." She closed her eyes. "I know." "No," I said. "You don't." She opened her mouth to speak again, but I raised my hand. "This meeting isn't for your peace. It's for the truth." She nodded. And then she said something I wasn't prepared for. "There's one more thing," she whispered. "Something I never told anyone." My pulse quickened. She looked toward the door, then back at me. "When Mom started questioning the changes, I told her you already agreed." The words hit like a physical blow. "You what?" "I told her you said it was fine, that you didn't want anything, that you trusted me." My ears rang. "She cried," my sister added softly, "but she believed me." I stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. "That," I said, voice shaking now, "is unforgivable." She flinched. "I know," she whispered. I stared at her, this person I shared a childhood with, and realized something terrifying. She hadn't just stolen money. She had rewritten memories, weaponized trust, poisoned the past. "You'll testify," I said. "Yes." "You'll tell them everything." "Yes." "And you'll never contact me again." She nodded. I wouldn't dare. As I turned to leave, she called my name. I stopped but didn't turn around. I thought winning would make me feel safe. I spoke without facing her. It never does. Outside the room, my lawyer waited. "And well?" he asked. "She'll cooperate. Fully." He studied my face. "And you?" I took a breath. "I'm done carrying this." The next hearing was scheduled for the following week. Final statements, final consequences. The end. Or so I thought. The night before the hearing, I received one last message from an unknown number. No greeting, just a sentence. She didn't act alone. Attached was a photo. Blurry, old, two people signing documents. One of them was my sister. The other, someone I trusted. Someone who stood beside us at the funerals. Someone who looked me in the eye and said, "I'm here for you." My heart dropped, because if that photo was real, then everything I thought was finished was only the beginning. I didn't reply to the message. I didn't forward the photo. I just sat there, staring at my phone as if it might explain itself. Because betrayal has a sound when it lands. Not loud, not explosive. It's the quiet click of something locking behind you. The photo haunted me through the night. Two figures, one unmistakably my sister. The other, someone who hugged me after the funeral. Someone who told me, "Your parents were proud of you." The realization hurt, but not the way it would have weeks ago. It hurt differently, cleaner, because by then I'd already learned the hardest lesson. The truth always costs, but lies cost more. At the final hearing, the courtroom was full, not with drama, but with certainty. My sister testified, fully. She didn't fight, didn't deflect. She admitted to everything: fraud, manipulation, premeditated exclusion. She named names, including the person in the photo, a family advisor, a trusted friend, someone who thought grief made people careless. They were wrong. The judge listened, took notes, asked questions that cut through excuses like glass. And when it was over, there was no speech, no grand statement, just decisions, consequences, sentences written in calm ink. The estate was finalized, cleanly, fairly, not as revenge, but as correction. My parents' intentions were restored, not just on paper, but in principle. I never spoke to my sister again, not because I hated her, but because hate still gives someone space inside you, and I was done giving her that. Months later, I visited the house one last time. Empty now. Sunlight through bare windows. I stood in the hallway where my height used to be marked. I touched the wall, and I whispered goodbye. Not to the house, but to the version of myself who thought love meant silence. Here's what I learned, and what I want you to hear if you're still listening. Sometimes the people who hurt you most aren't strangers. They're the ones who know exactly where to aim. But survival isn't about winning. It's about remembering who you are when someone tries to erase you. I didn't walk away just with money. I walked away with truth, with proof, with peace that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. And that's something no one can steal. If you're watching this and thinking this feels too close to home, you're not weak, you're not naive, you're human, and you deserve better.